Join me in welcoming Cliff and his panelists to the stage. I'm going to let you guys get up there.
Thank you. All right. Can you hear me okay? Am I all good on the mic? All right. It's truly an honor to be here again. This has really become one of our favored marketing investments, and this is an industry and particularly a sub-industry that we really care a lot about. What we found over the last few years is that networking for these more complex and integrated payment solutions has gotten pretty complex, not just with the complexity of compliance, like with PCI. But mobile payment in particular has become a more complex communication application than a lot of the traditional card-based magstripe payment solutions that we saw several years ago. So with the evolution of this complexity in payment, we've learned a lot over the last few years. And what we wanted today to come and share not only some of our experience, but really give firsthand a chance to hear from some of the customers and partners that we've worked with on not just mobile payment, but other and similar e-commerce solutions. Because we certainly see there's convergence, not just of omni-channel in general, but payment is just becoming an integrated feature of so many different apps in some pretty creative ways. So, with that, I'd like to introduce, we have Ashley Applegarth, and Ashley is from Dottle, and she's the Director of North America. We also have Jamie Park from Shell, that's their downstream and retail organization, and Jamie's Senior Connectivity Architect. And then also we have Kevin Struthers, from W Capra. And W Capra has been a great advisor and consulting group for us to help us out on a few key projects. So more than anything else, I'd like to be able to pose some of the related questions to the three of them, and really let them bring to you some of their firsthand experience with living on the network edge in this in this new payment era. So, with that, let me open up and, we'll kind of just go down the line. But, first question, really want to pose this to all of you. But, in this particular topic, how would you define the network edge, not just in general, but as it relates to your applications or services? Kevin, do you want to start us off?
Sure, thank you. We typically see the network edge at where the brand and a store operator intersects. And the challenge with that network edge is balancing the needs, wants, and desires of two stakeholders. So the brand has certain things they want to accomplish. The operators want to accomplish something else, sometimes at odds, sometimes they're congruent in that. And so that's where we see the edge.
Great, thanks, Kevin. Now, Jamie, we've been fortunate to be part of your deployment for your mobile pay and some of your other technology solutions. But how would you define the network edge?
Yeah, so very much in that same vent or line, we operate a huge network of gas stations with 15,000 here in the US alone. And in that vent, we're always trying to, deliver Shell's brand reliably and securely while making sure that we can support the other businesses that need to happen on those sites that we may not control. So that's very much our network edge, is trying to keep that piece of kit running and delivering a successful transaction every time. Thanks.
Thanks, Jamie. Ashley?
I would love to just say ditto to everything that these two just said, because I think that that's absolutely true. But for Dottle, the network edge is our customers, wherever they are. Whatever they're using, whatever technology, that's where our edge is. We wouldn't have an edge if they weren't there. So having a seamless technology and an experience is really where our edge sits. So whether that's inside of a retail location, outside of a retail location, and on a cell phone.
Well, thanks, Ashley.
Mhm.
So, coming back the other way, I think of, the next question, if we can talk about, with your specific applications, technology, or services that, that you've deployed and supported, how much of a challenge has it been to solve, the complexities at the network edge? And what, how important or significant has it been to face those challenges? Ashley,
We're
sorry.
going in reverse. I'm sorry.
Sorry.
Okay.
I threw you
So for us, Doddle as a company, probably a lot of you aren't familiar with us unless you are based in the UK. We do what's called a pickup drop-off network for retailers, and so you can think of Amazon lockers, kind of similar to that fashion. So complexity-wise, we might be inside of someone else's network. So we might be like a store within a store. We might have people bringing their own devices. And it's been a very large challenge for us to figure out how to do that in a secure manner, and how to make that customer experience seamless. But with partnerships, I think that that's really how we've been able to scale to upwards of 12,000, 32,000 locations.
Thanks,
Mhm.
thanks, Ashley. Jamie, I know we've been working for a long time together, but can you speak a little bit on how important the network edge is, for you and Shell?
Right. So again, back to this whole being able to serve every customer every time. We use our SD-WAN platform that Cyber provides us very much to enable all of the systems that we put out there. We're always trying to evolve our offer and stay current and add loyalty to the mix. We've now got a mobile payment application. All of those put a big demand on the telecom solution in the site. And having this new network that we've got in place now really allows us to respond quickly to all these changes and deliver much more quickly than we could have, like even 10 years ago. So.
Thank you, Jamie.
I'll use Ashley's ditto. In my role at WCAPRA, I work on the business side primarily. And so the challenge with this complexity is talking the business into investing in it and to see the future far enough out, because when you're working in a network the size of like what Jamie indicated, it's not something that rolls out in a week.
Mm-hmm.
And so you have to look forward. And so it's getting the business to understand. In the previous presentation by Kevin from Wirecard, joked about mobile has been the year of mobile how many years, right? At some point, it's going to happen. And when it happens, the business has to be well placed to take advantage of it. And so that's the challenge in that complexity, is getting the investment, getting the business people to understand enough of the technology so they know what an SD-WAN would provide them in terms of future flexibility. And so that's where complexity falls for me.
Thanks, Kevin. As you think about, all the different challenges and complexities, is there any one that stands out? Is there, any particular challenge you'd want to speak to or you maybe advise?
I would just carry on with my last answer, is getting someone to write the check.
I wish that one were easy to solve.
Because technology, when you get the technologists involved, you can find a clear answer.
Mm-hmm.
The question is, can you pay for that answer?
Right.
And so from where I sit in the work I do with the clients that I serve, it's getting that understanding of what the consumer expectation is, what the technology to meet that expectation is, and how do we find the funding for it
Mhm.
to make it real.
Great. Oh, thank you, Kevin. So, Jamie, what do you see as your number one or your biggest challenges?
So in our current environment, probably one of the biggest challenges we have is just trying to protect and keep our our PCI compliance in place. So we go to a whole bunch of effort to ensure the security of the system, and we're always trying to make sure that we're not the next breach. So, and I'm not going to say there's such a thing as perfect, but if there's something that keeps me awake at night, it's trying to make sure that we've closed all the doors and are looking at ways to be more proactive, mitigate in the whole security range. And we see as we look forward, more devices coming, which could potentially be more of a threat for us. So it's a big challenge for us, and we continue to really focus on it. Thanks.
Thanks, Jamie. Ashley, what do you see as your biggest challenge?
Well, honestly, it's getting people to say dawdle and not doodle, but sorry, I couldn't help myself. That's, as a software platform, we integrate with a lot of different technologies, including POS systems and OMS and WMS and more acronyms than I could wrap my head around a lot of times. And then they're making up even more acronyms, right? Every retailer you go to that we speak with is like, oh, can you integrate with this and this and this and this? And so we're touching our, like, tentacles are going out and touching all these different platforms. And how do we ensure our customers that their brand is going to stay intact, and then that their customers are going to have a great experience? And so that is a question that we're going to continue to answer and continue to work on and continue to drive security around, so that we can have the comfort, or at least give our clients the comfort in knowing that when they do something with Dawdle, not Doodle, it's going to be safe and secure.
So I have to say, Ashley, I can empathize. I think about a third of the people I meet call us Siberia. So you're not alone in that regard. The next topic I think is pretty interesting. For you as well, Ashley, because if we talk about IoT for a little while, we've seen your systems as a really good example of this kind of next generation of IoT devices, where for our retail customers, your device is, typically, an IoT system being deployed into, their environments. So can you talk a little bit about, IoT, how your strategy fits relative to IoT, and, and any thoughts for your unique challenges, related to IoT and networking?
I could talk about that for hours. I could, but I only have a couple minutes. So, we're trying to be so diverse and flexible because all of our customers have different needs and desires, and they want to be special to their customers, and they want to be unique, and they want to. So, Internet of Things and IoT is really, in my book, is making sure that everything is operationally excellent, right? And so whatever it is, whatever it looks like, if it looks like a silly locker, just not cute, or it's a kiosk, a returns pod like you guys have in your innovation center, that the transaction with the customer is seamless, right? And the information that is given is relevant information, whether it's to the customer or back to our customer, the retailer. And so I see IoT as more and more things come on to the internet, endpoints that we have to secure, but also seamless transactions and seamless activities that we have to provide to our customers. So hopefully that answers your question. Don't digress too far.
But it's great feedback. I mean, you're representing a viewpoint on IoT that's important, is that at the end of the day, all of these systems and devices have a purpose. In all these integrations, the customer experience matters. And, part of why, we've really viewed this as a strategic, market opportunity for us is we see that the integration, for mobile pay, IoT, and systems, from one solution to the next, they aren't all created equal. There are ways to integrate the technology and create a better customer experience.
Right.
So Jamie, we've had to, work through some specific IoT challenges together. You want to talk a little bit about your experience with IoT and how that's affected your network and edge?
So I think one of the biggest challenges I have with IoT is there are so many devices coming. And we've gone from a small network in our sites, limited Wi-Fi, to now one where we see these devices coming. Some of them will be well trusted, and we can put them, more openly on the secure parts of our network. Whereas other devices may be less robust, and we need to make sure that we can secure them. What we really don't do well today in our solution is provide much of a, I'll say, an access control environment. And that's something that I see that we really have to bring with us as we take the next step towards IoT.
Thanks, Jamie. And Kevin, what do you and W Capra think and see in the evolution of IoT and how that affects your customers?
Building on what Jamie and Ashley said is the number of devices and companies, and then how do we ensure a great consumer experience? Because now we have data hopping around, and so many hops means so many seconds, and we all have incredibly limited patience for something to happen. And so how do we move data effectively and meet a consumer's expectation is our big challenge with IoT.
Oh, thanks. You know, there's another buzzword or topic we're hearing, a lot about, and I know it's becoming more and more relevant in retail. But what do you see, for the future of AI, machine learning now becoming part of the integrated payment and retail environment? Can you talk a little bit about that, Kevin, and what you're seeing in your customers?
Yes, W Capra, we've expanded our practice in the fraud area to include data scientists. Fraud with mobile payments is tough because it's immediate gratification. There's no time for human review. And so you have to make an instant decision. Like I just said, customers don't want to wait. And so how do you do that immediate transaction, right? You've got 2 seconds to go to a host and say, is credit available? And then, is this a proper transaction? And so for us, we had to make a heavy investment in AI and the talent to operate AI to get the right answer for the merchant.
Jamie, how about you and Shell? Where do you see AI fitting?
So I see it as a key competency that we really have to step up to. And in that regard, I'll talk a few things. We're already, I'll say, in the fraud area, in the cybersecurity area, we're already working with some AI tools like Splunk as a way to try and detect suspicious behavior in a much faster fashion. We're also doing a little bit of machine warning around video surveillance on sites. We're trying to use the security feed as a way to detect people smoking at the pump, as an example. So as we evolve forward, we'll see a growth in this area that we have to stay with and make sure that we can support those systems, those technologies, the bandwidth that they require as a way to keep safe in the world going forward. Thanks.
Thanks, Jamie. Ashley, what do you and Dottle think about AI?
Yeah, so I could weave a little bit of a web here, but so for us, I always refer back to Google, right? Okay, so there was a statistic that came out that within 30 searches, Google could determine better than your spouse what your behaviors are and how you decide to do things. That's really scary, right? Yeah, that's really scary. So that's how I look at our business, right? Our customers, our brands, whether it be ASOS or Amazon or Farfetch, Kohl's, whomever, they want this information and data, right? And so AI, I'm going the data path, and they need to be able to eat it, right? They need to have it in a consumable form. And I think that what we've been trying to figure out is how do we partner with a company that does that really well, that takes that data and intelligence and gives that back to our customer to show them here's what they might want, the person that comes to drop something off or pick something up, right? They ordered this item, this is their behaviors, this is how they've done it in the past, this is how they prefer to return things. They don't want to talk to a human, but they really want somebody to say hi, when they walk in the door, whatever it is. So I think that it's very important as we grow and as our behaviors change in society to use AI to treat our customers better, to understand them better, and also to push them away if we don't need them, right? So if they're poor behaving customers and they're costing us lots of money, they need to learn that that's not supposed to be the way, like if I order something and I have a habit of returning it all the time, I'm going to start being charged for that, right? Because my inclination is I'm going to cost your business a lot of money, and I need to be trained in that behavior. So that's kind of where I see our industry going, and how we might use AI and just data in general. Mhm.
So you all have hit on, a couple of great topics with a lot of good thoughts, both, for IoT and AI. This is more of an open question, for any of you. But as you think about the applications and features that you're bringing to market, or consulting on, what are the kinds of network and security challenges more specifically that you see coming from IoT and AI?
Anyone?
Yeah, I'll jump in there. I think to me, it's just having that capability to segregate the different AI bots or the sensors on site to understand which ones are trusted and that we can do more with, and which ones potentially have been placed by someone else that we have to be careful of. So to me, that's probably a double-edged sword there, but trying to, again, keep the environment safe. At the end of the day, we want to make sure that we're providing, a secure, safe transaction environment that's successful every time.
Thanks, Jamie.
Yeah. With us, we work in a space of lifetime value, right? So what's that customer's lifetime value to a brand? And so where I see our biggest challenge is as we move from traditional edge networks to this being my edge network, like this device. How do we seamlessly integrate? How do we create the experience? And how do we gather that information and make sure we're doing it in a way? Because as businesses, we're responsible for that information for that customer and their security, right? And bad press is not good press anymore, right? That could ruin someone. It's cost Target billions of dollars. So I think of it in that way, where we're really responsible for this information that we're getting, and that is a scary fact. This is how I'm going to do everything for the rest of my life moving forward, and then maybe it's going to be my glasses and so on and so forth. Yeah.
I would echo what Jamie and Ashley said. It's the unmanaged device at the edge.
Mm-hmm.
We don't know, we want to trust that device because we have an experience, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that experience has to be a great experience, so they come back to your lifetime value point, right? But who is it? And how are we sure that that device is Ashley or Jamie or Cliff, and not somebody posing to be Ashley, Jamie, or Cliff? And so I think that's the big security challenge, right?
Mm-hmm.
How are you inviting and open, but secure all at the same time?
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Yeah, it's interesting when when I look back a few years ago, as we were really starting to get engaged in some of some of the mobile pay deployments, we found that it was just a very, very different type of network integration when the payment transaction is being initiated from a mobile device rather than through a magstripe card. One of our first projects in working with some of our petro retail partners like Shell was just the network integration it takes for a mobile device talking to a public cloud, that cloud making a payment authorization, and then turning on a fuel dispenser, but all within the span of maybe a fraction of a second. That's extremely complex compared to just swiping a card and having that fuel dispenser reach out for authorization. So it just is a more complex world. It seems to be getting more complex rather than simpler.
Absolutely.
So I can personally really appreciate all the feedback that you've given. A broader, kind of bigger, question. Where do you all see the network edge evolving when you think of, all the various topics from mobile pay, loyalty, all the omni-channel e-commerce applications? What do you see as the future for network edge with regard to, retail and the relevant markets today?
I think it's going to have to become more robust. analysts say that next year, each one of us will generate 1.5 gigabytes of data a day. Ashley pointed out, 30 searches and I know who you are or know what you're going to do, right? So all of this data is being created. I don't think consumers are going to allow us to spend the time to send that all back to a public cloud or back to the cloud and bounce around to different hosts. There's going to have to be a more robust interface at the network edge so we move that processing closer to the consumer and meet their speed targets. And I think it's the velocity of change as well. Things are happening faster and faster. And sometimes when we deal with a brand and partners, the partners may not understand that velocity of change. And so how do we get the right robustness at the edge at a price people are willing to pay to support that velocity of change? I was a little surprised in the Kevin from Wirecard's presentation when he asked how many think mobile payments are going to be real. There wasn't a lot of support in the room. I think it's going to happen. When it happens, I think it's going to be like a tipping point. We see it in China. We see adoption increasing. I think it's going to require a different point of view. It may not be every customer. Old Kevin may not be an early adopter, but younger people are. And so I think it's the data, the speed is going to require a more robust edge capability.
Thanks, Kevin.
So I'm going to step in and talk about our first mobile payment transaction in the US with the first attempt about 4 years ago. That transaction took 25 seconds to complete. There was lots of room for improvement. We've now got it down into the 2 to 3 second range. But it took a lot of, I'll say, rethinking about how the transaction needs to flow and what are the key systems along the way that we need to, I'll say, tie together in this big ecosystem to deliver that value proposition. And that's just one example. And we see as we look at other things we want to do on the site, those types of examples are growing. The loyalty value chain is another big one. Our supply chain, we're trying to evolve that as well. So all of these take much more bandwidth. They take a lot more, I'll say, quick turnaround to affect change. The routing piece about how do we take away unnecessary stops and more directly route traffic is big for us. So those are the types of things that I'm really focused on as we look forward is how do we keep this environment fully manageable, fully visible, and have a platform that we can really leverage to deliver on our value propositions. So.
Thanks.
Yeah, I 100% agree with everything that you guys are saying up here. And I also think one of the things that we've kind of missed out is being intelligent in how that traffic is routed. And so what I mean by that, because you did touch on this, but the speed by which we need to get information places is paramount, right, to our business. But we also have to understand the things that don't have to get places fast, right, and be able to slow that down in ways that don't affect, right? So we're not going to route our credit card traffic the same way that we're going to route the video camera surveillance traffic that we're not looking at on a regular basis. We're not going to necessarily route all the loyalty information immediately and so on and so forth. That's not necessarily my area of expertise, so you could tell me I'm totally wrong. But if I get gas right now, I'm probably not going to get gas 5 minutes from now unless it was a $2 transaction, and then maybe I am going right down the street. But I think that being intelligent as an industry about what information we're using and when, and I think this plays into the SD-WAN, right? What channel are we sending it over? And this could nerd out on this for more hours than necessary. But I think those are the questions that if we're not already asking them to our business and our infrastructure team, those are the ones that we need to be asking. Is this absolutely necessary that we route this through the cloud? Or can we keep it on-prem? And it almost is cyclical, right? Because it's coming back where we used to keep a lot of stuff on-prem, how many years ago, and store it all there. And now we're like, yeah, we could keep that there. We could DVR that for now, right? Anyway, that's my answer.
Oh, thank
Stay
you.
tuned.
Thank you very much. You all have given some great insights, and I feel good. Fortunately, we're on time pretty well. Have a few minutes left. Do you all have any questions for our fine panelists? Is there anything we can answer?
Not one.
All right, I do. Okay, so Jamie, you mentioned that one of your, thank you. You mentioned one of your goals was to enable all of the systems that evolve and add loyalty and are part of the mobile payment app. So am I to understand that you actually created a mini ecosystem within that app? I mean, do you support third party and I mean,
So I'll say that's an interesting space. Right now, our focus, and I'll start with the U.S., is our focus is really on the Shell Fuel Rewards loyalty program and I'll say the Shell app, that's a payment app. But very much as we look to our wholesalers, they want the ability or capability to have their own branded app. And how do we support those linkages to that? That's a very active question within Shell is, and we had this discussion beforehand, is there's lots of folks out there that really want to own the customer. And how can we work together to come up with a solution where we all get the access to the customer that we need or want and still keep the customer happy at the end of it.